If there's a higher corporate good to be served by breaking the law, by having the FDA work with the Codex and try and drag the U.S. into this nightmare, then they're all for it, and they're doing it.
So we do what the WTO tells us, and that's why I'm very leery of the WTO, and I'd just soon we get out of the WTO.
This would be like the ultimate reaching of government into our personal health lives, which would be unbelievable, and not even our government, some bureaucratic, diffuse, multinational, secretive government.
It's the power that's in the WTO that we have to deal with ultimately, and I don't like the trend.
On Capitol Hill, legislators are now debating the merits of yet another trade agreement called CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement. This latest Trojan horse was wheeled into Washington as a saviour for a faltering economy. But as consumers in Europe could confirm, it will only lead to more backroom deals that could spell the end of health freedom as we know it.
Now, people think that could never happen here. Probably at one time people in England thought it would never happen there, and yet their government has ignored over 1 million signatures on petitions on this issue, saying, sorry guys, we are now a member of the European Union and we must harmonize to European law. If we aren't careful in our hemisphere, the same thing will happen as a result of the free trade area of the Americas.
But the trend towards the WTO, NAFTA and now CAFTA being used to harmonise laws and regulations to favour pharmaceutical interests has long been a reality in the European Union. German representatives at Codex began to push the idea of creating safe upper limits on vitamins and minerals, and this was favoured in the UK until Dr. Robert Verkerk began orchestrating a precise legal, scientific and public relations strategy to stop it. His organisation, the Alliance for Natural Health, brought a landmark legal challenge to the EU Food Supplements Directive. In April 2005, the Advocate General in the European Court declared that the EU directive should be declared invalid under EU law. In July of 2005, UK and European consumers will discover the fate of this legal battle, and it is anything but a sure win.
What's coming down the line from Codex and from Europe is very disturbing. First, you got 450 million people over there. Secondly, they have the most restrictive nutrient access of any of the free world. Third, you just had a woman in France arrested and is now undergoing trial for selling 500 milligrams of vitamin C tablets.
Between the draconian regulations of the EU Supplement Directive and the ominous Codex guidelines, which will be voted on in July 2005, there is little doubt that health freedom lies in the balance, in Europe, in America, and throughout the world.
The World Health Freedom Foundation is supporting this movement in Europe, because there's no question if we stop it in Europe, its effect on the United States will be less. And anyone who thinks that Codex or the European Union or the World Trade Organization, when it comes to very restrictive policies in Europe, is not going to have effect on the United States is crazy. You got 450 million people over there. They have enormous trade with us. They deal in steel and textiles, etc. And if they are upset with our libertarian policies regarding nutrient supplements, it's going to affect other economic systems. Now, we might have sovereign protection, but good gosh, that will fly away in an instant with the stroke of a pen if a trade agreement is challenged. What's happening in Europe, just like the trade winds, is coming our way. And no one can argue in a reasonable fashion why that is not going to happen. That is happening.
It has been said many times that democracy is the dream of all who are oppressed, the hope of those imprisoned by fear or injustice. But the sad truth, that which is almost too sad to acknowledge, is that the betrayal of democracy began long ago. when profit replaced the will of the people and corporate lobbyists became the masters of the universe.
Alarm bells are going off everywhere. The American people are way ahead of the Congress and have figured this out, and it's only a matter of time until Congress is beaten into, coming around on these issues. I mean, but if we don't do it soon, it could be too late.
If it is true what a great civil and human rights leader once said, that our lives begin to end the moment we become silent about things that matter, then freedom has already begun to atrophy because of our inaction. Slowly, sovereign rights fade away, as surely as the ink on an old declaration is removed by time. The pursuit of happiness, the promise of equality, of personal choice, are chipped away by complacency, and over time become barely visible in the world around us. If we had treasured it more, some say, if we demanded government cooperation, not interference, if we had exercised our freedoms every day, every week, just like the forces of power and money have done, if only.
I think that we should all get together and fight for our rights. I think that these are God-given rights. I think this is a legacy that was given to us at the beginning of time, and we should fight like crazy so that people can maintain their rights from now and forever.
There are some who say this is a battle that cannot be won. We are the David, they are the Goliath. But it's too important to sit it out and allow the multinational corporations and the regulators to inform us what our freedom should be. If we don't demand medical freedom of choice, we will lose it. It's critical that the people of Europe, the people of Asia, Africa, the Americas, and the rest of the world come together so that we can protect our health freedom for our generation and those of the future.
This, then, is your call to action. It is one of enlightened self-interest, a righteous cause that even the high priests of profit cannot defeat. It is a real drug war, a fight for health freedom, a struggle for human rights.
And so you get the government you deserve if you don't speak up. The only way to have good government free from all the things that are happening to us is if the citizens stand up and are not doing it. They have to stand up and be counted. And if you put enough effort, the good guys win. It needs to be done.
Modern medicine has led us to Babylon and a wasteland of expensive and often ineffective options. If we do not act, if we become silent, governments will be free to replace the teachings of all ages with toxic lies. Timeless natural medicines, foods and herbs with which we have evolved, culled from thousands of years of collected wisdom, will be swept away, crushed under the myopic weight of corporate greed. Yet we often forget how much power we actually wield, and that we are the creators of our own place on this planet. Amid the sea of faces, there is an honorable cartel forming, one for the benefit of mankind.
You must join the battle by protecting yourself and your family from health frauds. When you're in trouble, that's not always easy. But in the end, being victimized can be far worse. It can mean not only your money, but your life.